How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your weekly forecast of what the fuck is going on in the universe for December 24th through December 31st. Thank you guys for being here and watching, liking, and sharing, and commenting and subscribing. I super appreciate and love every single one of you guys. And in this video, I'm actually going to be doing some new edits and trying out some new things. So if you guys like it, go ahead and let me know in the comments. If you got some more feedback, let me know. I really want to produce a lot more higher quality content and just more interactive, better stuff. So this is something I'm trying out, and if I like it, I'm going to keep doing it. However, if it's not really the thing, I'm still going to be looking for other areas to improve on my stuff. So let me know what you guys think. But before we go into the horoscope, just to give you guys a brief overview, I think this is kind of cool because this is the last week of 2018. After this, by the time we go into next Monday and you're watching this video again, we're going to be in 2019, into the next year. And this week, starting it off, we have Mercury leaving shadow and squaring Neptune. The rest of the week is mostly just, lunar transits to everything, and Mars being in the last couple of degrees of Pisces before he goes into Aries. And I really think that big shift into Mars going in from Pisces to Aries is going to be pretty prevalent. Mars is going to be extremely activated throughout January. And so I think this last week of 2018 is going to be a really good time to really reflect on a lot of what 2018 was, a lot of what it really, came with, and where we're kind of going into when it comes to 2019. Just with the lunar transits, I think it's just going to offer a lot of deeper aspects with, self-reflection. And I think this is going to be a big week to kind of, I don't want to say cut out a bunch of things, but just kind of handle everything and get a solid perspective on leaving the past, going into the new. Even if you don't really celebrate the new year, I just think around this time, especially with all the holidays that everyone celebrates, and just around this time, it's a good time to reflect on the past, look back at what this year has brought us, and how we can really utilize what we've learned, what we've been through into the year moving forward. So let's go ahead and go to the horoscope. So starting off on today, Monday, December 24th, Christmas Eve, if you guys celebrate it, we're in the middle of Cap season now. The sun went to Capricorn. We're not in Sag season anymore. It's not about fun and excitement. It's kind of more Saturnian, more serious, more, okay, like, let's get things done. Let's, be a little bit boring. Things can also feel a little bit more, Saturn's kind of cringy. The moon will also be in Leo, though, just coming off of a conjunction with the North Node, leaving that full moon in Cancer that we just had. And so as we go into Monday, we also have Mercury leaving shadow and squaring Neptune. So I think on Monday, we just kind of have a weird little jump into a weird mix of energy, because with the sun being in Capricorn now and things take a very serious note, and this moon in Leo is kind of, a little bit activated, a little bit more supercharged. It just came off a full moon. And I think after we had this full moon where it came to, okay, what do we need? What do we need to feel? What do we need? Where do we need to trust? Where do we need to realize? Where do we need nurturing? And where do we want to take care of ourselves and other people? I think as the moon goes into Leo, this is going to be a great time to really look and reflect at what's next, what's possible from here. The moon in Leo is very much, charismatic, it's very emotionally passionate, so it could feel like even more intense than the moon in Cancer. But you definitely want to use that passion for something, especially as the moon on Tuesday later starts to trine Mercury and Jupiter. But as we are on Monday, Mercury is going to be squaring Neptune again, and it's just leaving shadow. So as Mercury had its whole retrograde period and went, it hit Jupiter a couple times, went back into Scorpio, and it's flying forward. As it squares Neptune again, we're prepared for this. We've went through the Mercury retrograde of rethinking about this, going back into the past, kind of getting more focused, getting more clear. We got the message from Jupiter that it's okay to move forward. It's just as it's squaring Neptune, it's not gonna look exactly the way that you want it to. It's gonna be blurry, it's gonna be confusing, it's gonna be foggy. But this is about taking one step at a time and not, going away from the trail. There's a trail and an outline for you to walk through, and Neptune is just making that like, oh, should you continue on the trail? Should you just get off the trail? No, you definitely want to just take things one step at a time and just keep moving forward and keep seeing and keep, visualizing the end of the road, the destination. Know where you're going. So I think Monday is just going to give you guys a lot more of that, Capricorn seriousness of like, all right, I can do this. And the moon and Leo being like, yeah, I'm proudful. I got pride. I can do anything I want. Then Mercury squaring Neptune leaving shadow is going to start us off on a really good positive pace. Then we go into Tuesday, and as the moon starts to trine Mercury and Jupiter, this is pretty positive. The moon in Leo is wanting us to feel something, feel proud, feel, I don't want to say feel egotistical, but what are we, what is our worth? What is our love being, poured into? What are we passionate about? What are we excited about? Where can we, I don't want to say trust, but have more integrity within ourselves and be more of our higher selves? And I know that higher selves word or phrase, I should say, can be kind of you know, interpreted in a few different ways. But I like using the higher self as like, you know, you have your inner God and you have your inner child. And that higher self is that person that sees both of those perspectives. And that moon in Leo is like, you know, yeah, I can forgive myself. You know, I've been through turmoil and I, you know, came out of it because I have integrity and I have power and I have passion, I have pride. And the moon in Leo is also like, you know, and because of that, I can keep going on. I'm not going to be humiliated with my mistakes and I can keep feeling the power to move forward. And as it trines Mercury and Jupiter, like Mercury and Jupiter is like, yes, this is what I want to hear. Mercury's, you know, getting a lot of ideas. He's getting more excited as he's leaving that square to Neptune. And the moon's also going to be trining Jupiter. Jupiter's in Sag, where Jupiter wants us to see bigger opportunities, see bigger perspectives, see and hold a space for learning, for growing, for something exciting. And again, this is fire energy right here. It's, you know, once you light a fire, it goes off pretty fast. So then that's Tuesday, that's Christmas Day on Tuesday, December 25th. We also have the moon squaring Venus too. And I think this is when it's going to get interesting because I talk a lot, and I have been talking a lot in the past couple horoscopes about how the Venus going through Scorpio and the retrograde thing, as well as Mercury going through Sag, has been kind of like going through a path. And as the moon squares Venus, this moon in Leo is like, you know, yelling at Venus and Scorpio like, you can't be afraid, you can't, you know, like, don't be afraid, you can't, you know, cower down, now it's time to go. And Venus and Scorpio can kind of take that a little bit in an agitated way. And I think the big thing with this here is that while Venus is in Scorpio, while she's still making her way out, like she's going into Sagittarius, she's about to make a conjunction to Jupiter and trine Mars and do a whole bunch of other fun things. However, right now with Venus and Scorpio, it could still be like scared to move on, scared for this new territory. It's like, it's still gunky, it's still holding you back, it's still yucky. And the moon in Leo is just trying to like come up with that charisma and that attitude to be like, hey, get yourself out of it. Like, you've got the power, you just got to keep going. And I'd like to suggest using I would like to say the energy of Venus and Scorpio being really liking things to a very specific desire and getting really into things and really like something and using that attitude and channeling that with that moon and Leo of like being able to keep going down the path, having the want and the desire and the pure energy to just drive and attack and keep moving forward. Especially while Venus is in Scorpio, times right now, it's still gunky, it's still yucky, things aren't as nice as we want them to be, and we're going to get to nicer times. However, as Venus is in Scorpio, we've got to just keep taking one step at a time and keep getting out of there. However, that's on Christmas. I do think it is going to be pretty nice to at least celebrate Christmas Day with that. However, moving on into Wednesday, on Wednesday the 26th, we have moon going into Virgo, and it is going to be trining the sun, and it's going to start to make a square to Jupiter. And as the moon goes into Virgo, it's like, finally, Christmas is over, holidays are done, we got a few more days until the new year. And the moon in Virgo is just going to really help us kind of like process what needs to get done, what needs to get fortified. It's trining the sun, where it's like the sun in Capricorn finally is like, yes, this is what I need to do, this is what I want to focus on, this is what we need to accomplish. So I think as the moon goes into Virgo, this is going to be a cool time, but as the moon later goes into Virgo and starts transiting more deeper into it, going into Thursday, December 27th, we do have the moon opposing Neptune. It will be squaring Mercury, it will square Jupiter, and it will be trining Sun, Saturn, and Pluto at this time. So as the moon goes deeper into Virgo, I think it's going to get a little bit more intense, and as it squares Mercury and Jupiter, it could feel like, you know, analysis paralysis, a little bit of overload of what needs to get done, what you want to do, and focusing on everything, and squaring Mercury, and Mercury's like, I don't get it. Like, you know, you can't be more clear about the message with the moon in Virgo, and Mercury and Sag is like, I still don't get it. And Jupiter and Sag is like, lighten up, it's not that big of a deal. We don't need to focus on the details, we need to focus on going. We need to focus on the big picture. So it can feel a little bit overwhelming, and especially as the moon opposes Neptune, it can feel a little bit confusing and diluted. So while the moon's going through Virgo after the 2 days after Christmas on the 26th and 27th, don't, you know, stress yourself out. I love for the moon in Virgo, every time the moon's in Virgo, I try to do something to clean or to sweep, and that really alleviates a lot of stress and anxiety that moon in Virgo can sometimes bring up, and especially with that square to Mercury, you know, Mercury and Sag can go pretty overwhelmed pretty fast. So just on those 2 days, you know, see what you could focus on that's really going to ground you, that's really going to help you focus on one thing and not get overwhelmed with all the possibilities of everything. And then as we go into Friday, Mars is going to conjunct Chiron. And as Mars is at these last few degrees of Pisces, where it's getting really weird, it's getting really funky, but you know that something else is coming, you know that energy is starting to come forth, I think as Mars conjuncts Chiron, I think this is going to be a really big time of inner reflection of like, and inner healing too. I mean, this is Chiron, this is the wounded healer, and we have Mars right here, who is, you know, the god of war, causing the wounds and whatnot. But I think as Mars hits Chiron, I almost said just Pisces. As Mars hits Chiron right here, I think this is going to just be a time of like, hey, it's okay to not know where you're going. It's okay to be confused in the moment, but you've got to take acknowledgement of that, and you can't let that stress you out. Especially with Mars and Pisces being, you know, our action and our energy, it can feel like, you know, we're throwing, it's like, you know, when you're in a dream and you're in a fight and your punches like are super soft or something like that. It's like Mars and Pisces. It's like, why isn't this working? Why, you know, which way do I go? What do I believe? The stress and the amount of the stimulation around your whole environment can be very overwhelming. You can want to separate yourself from that and separate yourself from, you know, confusion and emotions and all that stuff. And it's just a lot. And as Mars hits Chiron, though, I think this is going to be the time of like, hey, it's okay to feel these things. It's okay to feel confused. This is about getting centered in yourself. Mars in Pisces, when it's in Pisces, it's not about, you know, Mars in Aries where it's like, oh, I have the energy, I can just accomplish and do. Mars in Pisces has to find that compass for itself on the inside. Mars in Pisces has to go like, hey, what am I feeling, and where do I feel best fit at this moment with my energy? Or especially with even things like anger and frustration, where Mars in Pisces could be like, oh, the anger and frustration can be prevalent, but it's not really, you know, pinpointable to something specific. However, I think this is really just about going, hey, let's calm all of that down. Let's get centered with ourselves before we go into this new year. And where do we need to be? Where is our internal compass going? And where is our energy wanting to be directed into? So then that's Friday, December 28th. We have also the moon going into Libra and opposing Mars. And as the moon goes through the last few degrees of Virgo and starts to oppose Mars, this is again like overanalyzing all of this. This is going to be, you know, paying attention to detail, but I do think this is about going internal and going, hey, how does this feel with me? You know, let's really process how I feel and all of these type of emotions and reactions that come with that. However, the moon will be going into Libra, where I don't want to say things are going to balance out, because the moon will be in Libra, but it'll be squaring Saturn. It'll start to square Saturn, I should say, and start to square the sun, which is going to cause a little bit of attention, because while the sun and Saturn in Capricorn, where it's about simplicity, it's about efficiency and effectivity, the moon in Libra's got to weigh out our options, and it's got to weigh out, you know, what can be, you know, what do we need to value most versus what do we need to value least, and what do we need to be more attentive on versus what doesn't really need our attention at this moment. So as the moon goes into Libra, it's kind of taking all of that Virgo stuff that you analyzed, that you went over, and it's kind of balancing all out. You know, what do we want to do with this? What do we want to do with that? And I think this is going to be kind of like a time to really sit back and go, hey, like, okay, if this is what's bothering me, if this is what's confusing me, if this is what's frustrating me, like, let's really, you know, delegate it. Let's really go like cardinal energy, Capricorn energy, because this is, Saturn energy, because this is also, you know, Libra and Capricorn. You have Saturn's domicile and his exaltation. I think this is about really going, hey, like, really what works and what doesn't. What's going to be effective, what's not? What are we taking with us into the new year? What are we holding back, or what are we letting go moving forward into the new year? So then as we go into Saturday on December 29th, we do have the moon squaring Sun and Saturn. That's going to be more coming up. But the moon will also sextile Jupiter too. So this is kind of like, you know, as you delegate this, as you balance this out, there's hope, there's optimism. You're like, okay, now I'm starting to feel a certain way of how to get this situated and delegated. And the Jupiter in Sagittarius is just kind of putting a splash of optimism on kind of like everything he touches. So, you know, as you kind of go through that, as you kind of weigh things out, it will start to get better. You'll start to see like a dawn. You're like, okay, now things are making sense going into 2019. Now things are starting to come together. And then as we go into Sunday, December 30th, we have the moon going into Scorpio, and it's going to oppose Uranus right before it does that. And I know, like I said in the beginning of this video, it's mostly focused on lunar stuff. Like there's not a whole lot of big planetary action going on, not until like next month. However, as the moon goes into Scorpio, this is kind of like, you know, getting serious, getting real, getting raw. But right when we go into the new year. And while the moon is in Scorpio, I think it is going to be... It can be scary at times. It could get really deep, really dark, really fast. However, it can also find a lot of regurgitation, a lot of purging energy, a lot of like cleaning up that gunk stuff. And as the moon goes into Virgo and opposes Uranus, especially while the moon's in Libra and Uranus is in Aries, I think this is kind of finding that breakthrough of like what needs to be focused on and what doesn't. And as the moon goes into Scorpio, like that's kind of dedicating and committing to that focus of that pursuit. And that's kind of getting yourself ready for going into the new year. What are we getting started with? Because even though it's going to be Monday, I'm sure some of you are still going to be working, and it's basically, all right, we're starting the new year. So as the moon goes into Scorpio, this is going to be a time to focus, a time to commit, a time to get, you know, like ready to go all the way with it. And if you have New Year's resolutions, like, yes, you're going to feel very ready to take those on. And then by the time we get back to Monday, December 31st, New Year's Eve, we have the moon trining Neptune as it goes through Scorpio. It'll be also starting to make a conjunction with Venus. We have it sextiling the sun and Saturn, and Mars is going to go into Aries. Like, by the time we get into Monday, things are going to feel clear, things are going to feel ready. Mars is going to go into Aries. We're going to feel excited, and it's going to happen actually Monday night, like right after I post the next video. However, this is still like right after that, we're still going to feel ready. We're going to feel ready to take on the new year. We're going to feel ready to move on and do bigger things. And as the moon's in Scorpio, especially while it's starting to trine Neptune, it's going to sextile Saturn and the sun. It's also going to start to make a conjunction to Venus. This is definitely like getting ready for that commitment, like wanting to see, like seeing your vision and knowing that you want it. Especially as the moon's trining Neptune, that vision is going to be clear, and that vision is going to be very real and very texturized is a good word. And that's what I got for you guys this week. I do think that this week is not necessarily like the biggest week in the world, but reflect on this week, you know, reflect on 2018. Where have you gone? What have you learned? What has happened to you? And not necessarily like, oh, you know, go into 2019 with all these goals and ambitions, but go into 2019 with an open mind of what can happen? What are the possibilities? What do you want to at least try to set yourself up for when it comes to opportunities? And what do you want to commit to? What are you committed to? As we go through 2019, it's very concentrated on Saturn and Capricorn and Cancer stuff. And also Jupiter and Sag. You know, what are you committed to? What is your long-term vision? What does that look like actually establishing that? So as we go into 2019, that's what it looks like. And I'll be seeing, well, I mean, yeah, and then we'll be talking more about that as we go into next week's video on Monday. But that's what I got for you guys. So thank you guys again for liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. And I'll be seeing you guys next week.